Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hi, Phil. Welcome to another podcast. Happy Friday out there for everybody. And we are excited to be here at Overland Expo West in Flagstaff, Arizona, with some very special guests and one special dog.
Well, Mike, I just want to tell you right now, we got a pool going on who's going to make it throughout this whole trip without a breakdown.
So for those of you guys that are listening out there, this is the Southern Cross Expedition team, where we're taking 7 vintage vehicles and 1 motorcycle on the backcountry discovery routes of Arizona and New Mexico. So we've got some people I want to introduce here. Peter Vollers, and you are driving what, Peter?
I am driving a 1966 VW Westphalia split window microbus.
And that possibly could finish the trip.
We hope.
And then we have Candy.
The 1986 CJ7.
And what's your odds? Who do you think is going to not make it? Right this second, if you had to guess right this second. I'm putting myself on the spot.
I think it's unanimous, Mike.
Who's not going to make the start?
I really think it's unanimous. I think we all know.
We're all starting in mud here, it seems.
Yeah. Okay. We got a live studio audience here.
Given that Mike has broken down 6 or 7 times already and we haven't even started the trip, I think we all know who's not going to make it.
We're doing good. And then we have famous Jerry here from Temple Tusk.
How you doing?
And what are you driving?
I've got a 1967 FJ40 Land Cruiser.
It's beauty. It's beauty. It's right behind the camera. You guys can't see it if you're watching this on YouTube, but check it out at some point on the internet. You'll be following us along. We're going to be putting out a lot of social media on the trip, as well as a complete YouTube series following our trip, coming out probably in the next month or two.
So, Mike, I think it would be more than appropriate for the other 2 members of your crew to come in and at least introduce themselves.
Absolutely. So we have, we've got the 3 of us, well, the 4 of us up here, and then we have a couple more guys wandering around here. Daniel, you got to come over here too. We have Eric Archer, and what are you driving, Eric?
I'm driving the 1959 Land Rover 109, and I'm feeling good that it's going to make it.
You've only broken down
5 times if you want to count the flat. If you want to count the flat, but I'm not sure. The soft tire, I don't think justifies really a breakdown.
No.
So 4.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Before starting.
And then we got behind me here, we got Kevin Ford. And what are you driving?
I'm driving a 1974 Volkswagen thing. I would like to say I was kidnapped. I don't want to do this. We got to drive down to Southern Baja in our vehicles, and there's no way I'm coming with you unless you do this trip with me. And so here I am. So am I going to make it? I suspect I'll be able to fix everything that breaks on the road, but there will be breakages.
So so to add to the drama here, this Southern Cross Expedition team, which is going to go for about it's a week or 2 trip. Immediately following that, Kevin and I are planning anyways to drive the trucks all the way to the southern tip of Baja. Our 2 trucks, the Land Rover and the Volkswagen thing. So I'm not going to say any more about that right now. We'll talk about that in another week, I think. And then
the thing, Woodstock and the Exxon Valdez.
Yeah, exactly. And then right behind me, I've got Daniel, and he's our motorcycle guy.
I am. I'm going to be providing some support and cinematography and taking the good old trusty KTM 390 adventure bike.
And
Excited?
We're feeling positive that you are going to make it.
I am too. I didn't know we could admit that we've been all kidnapped by Mike, but I'll throw my coin in that. Now that it's out there, I'll throw my coin in that. He basically said the friendship's on the line. You got to come. I was like, all right, fine. It's going to be a really fun time, and hopefully, we're going to capture all the excitement.
Cool. And we have, in fairness, we got 2. I'll call it 2 other team members. We have Todd, who's not here right now, in an international scout. I forget what year that is. It's old.
It's like a 74.
Yep. So he's not here. And then we got Kevin over here, who is our honorary team member who has been working on our trucks all day long. And when I say our trucks, almost all of the trucks, right, at some point. And
I'd say he's probably the MVP right now.
that's right.
yes.
That's right. So,
I don't think we'd be starting if it wasn't for Kevin.
No.
well, I could speak for myself. I wouldn't be starting, and when I say starting, I mean the truck wouldn't be starting either.
But I will say I have a treasure trove of extra parts but they're VW parts, and already half of them are gone, and they're on Land Rovers now. So, go figure.
Oh gosh.
That's all right. You still got like 5 wheels that are looking really sweet for the thing. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So all these people have tuned in to our usual podcast going, well, Mike and Phil are usually talking about politics or something, and now they're talking about something even worse, like broken trucks and trips. So I'll turn it over to Phil. What do you want to ask this team here while we got them assembled?
Okay, I've put it out there already. I've given my opinion on who I think is going to be the first one out and the first one to make it. I want you guys to stand on it and tell me who you think is going to make it all the way through and who's not.
Okay, fair.
Well, I think that we're all going to make it because it's kind of one for all for one on a trip like this, and we've already proven that. I mean, I have honestly nursed Mike here on a 10-hour drive from Albuquerque, again, using up most of my spare parts and everything else. So I think it's going to be, we're just going to deal with, I mean, to be very honest with everyone, the hard part was making sure everybody got here, honestly, with these old vehicles. The trip itself is somewhat relaxing because we're a no strict timeline. We do want to make the whole course, but if we don't make the whole course, it's no big deal. We're just gonna make sure everybody keeps continuing and stays safe. I think we're all gonna finish, honestly. That's my bet.
I agree. There's no man left behind here, and plus we'll have Kevin on speed dial in the event that something major does happen.
That's right. And you know, the adventure really doesn't start until something goes wrong. So we've already started the adventure.
That's right. I was going to say, I'm going to put it, if I had to call who's going to definitely make it, I'm giving it to Candy.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the Jeep and Candy and Kevin have done an amazing job at building that thing. So that would be my bet if it was not one for all and whatever. But I think we'll all make it some way in some shape or form.
I certainly think she's going to make it without a breakdown. That's for sure. She's going to be.
We may have
probably the
just
only
cursed her,
one.
by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys are at least in agreement. It's all for one and one.
That's right.
The only way to do
We're
it.
not leaving anybody behind.
But I think what we should do right now is let's explain the litany of things still wrong with Mike's Land Rover. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, right now, we put a new carburetor in today, so that's looking good. It's running nice. It has an exhaust manifold leak, but that's not something that we can fix here at Expo. It's got a rear main seal leak, and it leaks pretty bad, like about a quarter every 150 miles. And can't fix that here either. And the clutch is, we think we bled the clutch today, but we don't know that it's working that well, so
The clutch is non-existent, folks.
pretty much non-existent.
Oh.
And right now, I don't have any alternator in the truck, and fan belts and everything we're waiting on for parts. And that's on my truck.
Yes.
So we've got a few other issues going on. Candy's truck is missing the front hub.
The manual hub
The
on
manual
the passenger
hub.
side. Yeah, it burnt it up coming into Flagstaff.
And Eric's truck kind of has brakes and clutch sometimes.
We think we're much improved than where we were yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance at least 2 of the 3 team members wearing blue will make it. But one might.
That's right.
All right.
So what is the route, Peter? Why don't you just tell them quick what we're actually trying to do
Sure.
here?
So this route, I have to say, if people thinking that I somehow devised this whole route out here, I can't take credit for it because I think it's the best kept secret in overlanding are the backroad discovery routes. And you can get this on the BDR website, Backroad Discovery Route website. Now most people think that these routes, and there's one in every western state, there's even a northeastern one now, there's a mid-Atlantic one. They're basically going to be all over the country soon. Most people don't recognize these routes as overlanders because it's mainly dual sport and big motorcycle guys who, like 1,200 bikes, adventure bikes, who do these routes. And actually, the whole BDR crew they're all motorcycle guys. They're all moto guys. But because they ride these big bikes and they're not like motocross bikes, they have to be viable for pretty much, I've actually not seen a part of one There might be some devoted single track sections, but they're basically 2-track public roads. So when I first started looking into this, I was like, why aren't more overlanders using these? Because all you need to do to be able to navigate these roads is download the GPX file, which the guys at BDR are nice enough to put right on the website for free. You don't have to pay anything. I give a donation to BDR because they're just doing amazing service to us all. But you basically download the GPX file, you upload it to Gaia or to Onyx. I do both. And we're looking forward. I hear Chris Johnson's actually doing an even better navigation system, which I asked him about for this trip, and he said it just wouldn't be ready yet. But you just upload it there, and then you nav using that. And they even put in provisioning spots. They put in gas stations. They put in points of interest. They actually do. They have certain parts of the route that you have options for a little more aggressive, a little more spicy, and then you have the easier sections as well. It's just ready made. So what we're going to do is we're going to go south on the Arizona BDR from Winona. We're going to join in Winona, which is right along I-40, and then go south all the way to the Mexican border. And then we're going to run along the Mexican border and stop up in Bisbee and at our friends Sterling and Eva at their hotel. And then we're going to make our way across, hence the Southern Cross expedition, make our way across to Silver City and up through kind of diagonally through New Mexico to Truth or Consequences and pick up the New Mexico BDR just north of TRC and take that all the way up to Abiquiu, New Mexico, which I think is the best part of the New Mexico BDR. I've done it twice in the bus already, so that I'm very familiar with. And I'm navigation group leader on this one. I've never done the Arizona one though, so I have no idea what to expect.
And it's about 1,200 miles.
About 1,200 miles total. Right. So it's a pretty aggressive thing. It's going to take us almost 2 weeks. We're going to leave Monday after Expo, and I'm scheduled to get to Abiquiu the following Thursday. So it's a really long trip.
So who's in charge of cooking?
Are you looking at me?
Well, Jerry's in charge of providing the cooking instruments.
Yes, you don't want me cooking.
Yeah,
but I'll bring the Skottles, and we'll have plenty to cook on.
Well, just based on traveling with this group, I would say a lot of that. Well, two people come to mind. Daniel loves to get involved in Skottle cooking.
Good.
And Candy loves to do it as well. So I'm just gonna say they're probably point people on the cooking. That's my guess.
Yeah. We're not going hungry, that's for sure.
We're not going hungry.
That's all we need to know.
And well, I hate doing this, but how are you guys going to communicate? Sponsor.
That's right. There you go. Look at that.
Oh, you are good.
So we've just done, in fact, we've been installing these Midland radios here at Overland Expo. They were kind enough to ship out radios for all of the trucks. And Peter and I got the opportunity to actually use those on the way from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, and they work fantastic.
They work really well. You guys have to remember we're in really old cars and they're really loud.
Yes.
And I was able to listen. I have a little tiny radio going even because it was such a pathetically long drive. It took us twice as long to get here than we normally would be able to get here, largely because Mike's vehicle has a top speed of 27 miles per hour. So, but we were able to communicate right over our engine noise and everything else. And what Mike figured out, being the programming genius, honestly, is that you can program these to not only have sound out of the main unit, which we both mounted right near our ears, but you can also have the sound come out of the mic. So it's like double whammy. It's like stereo. And that is handy. Really cool feature.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
All right, thanks, Midland. So we're going to get into our regular mic. So if you guys are ready and you got the balls, we're about to continue this podcast.
Geez, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but here we go.
All right. Well, we are at the Overland Expo West, a place where we have literally 400 vendors, and I believe a lot of them are going to be affected by the tariffs. And I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on what direction the Overland community is going to go with the tariffs.
Well, I think tariff-wise, I think these are going to be up and down. I think we got about 9 months of people sitting on their hands or sitting on their money. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to work out. I think we're going to have a rough year, at least till the end of the year. And if the tariffs do or undo what they're supposed to do, I think starting next year and the year after, I think we're going to see a very good economy. This year, we're just going to have to suffer. And, sometimes the medicine's painful, and you know what? You got to take it.
Jerry, do you think any part of that is going to bring more production into the States?
Well, I know that, all our production is in the States.
Yep.
And has been for a long time now. I don't know. You know what? Bringing in production it takes time. You can't do it in 2 weeks. It took us a year to get our production from me using outside vendors to actually building what we make in-house. Probably a good year, and there's lots of ups and downs. You got to learn the machines. You got to learn how to do what other vendors already know for 20 years, and we had to learn it. So I think it'll take a year or 2 years before there's a lot more manufacturing happening here in the States. But hopefully it will happen. I mean, it's rare that you have a made in America product. I mean, just walk the Overland Expo, and I'd say there's probably 85%, maybe higher than that comes from outside the United States. And some of it's hard. It's hard for me because some of this stuff that's imported is half the price of what it cost me to make it.
Sounds like the future is good from what you're saying. Are the citizens of this country going to be patient enough to let it happen?
You know what? Hopefully they'll understand that it just has to happen. They've been trying this forever, and nobody has actually been able to have the backbone to follow it through. So I don't know. Politicians are funny. And,
that's an understatement.
Backbone is not part of that definition, and so if they can hold it together long enough for it to actually happen, I think we'll be much better off for it. If they collapse, then no, we're going to be right back where we were, and there's nothing new. But we're going to have to wait it out. And like I said, the last 2 years have been rough for this industry. I think for any industry. I mean, I've talked to a lot of industries who, since COVID, have been struggling. And
you mentioned that because Candy and I and her husband Kevin were talking about that this morning with the what do you call it? The post-COVID.
The COVID effect.
The COVID effect.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff, like even from what I would describe as what quality manufacturers or quality businesses is garbage, right? I mean, there's just problems with it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of problems. We've rebuilt that Jeep maybe 2 or 3 times in some cases just because of catastrophic failure on a brand new product. And these are good, reputable companies. Most of them are in the U.S., because the Jeep, it's a U.S., it's a born U.S. product, so we wanted to keep it, U.S. And but I think that some of the experienced people maybe retired during COVID, and now you've got these people who are less experienced trying to do the manufacturing job that they were doing, and it's not working out so well. There's a couple of big companies out there that have been around forever that we dealt with that are in real trouble as a result of that, and unfortunately it's been a domino effect.
Yep.
It seems like COVID was the impetus for the rise of overlanding, and it seems like it may be the demise.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was interesting for our market. Most of us were, rose very high through COVID. Where other industries, I'd hate to have been a restaurant.
Yeah.
The restaurants.
I got rid of mine right before COVID. It was great timing.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of businesses go out of business since then. We had a good high for 2 years, and we've had a very low last 2 years. So all within a 5-year period. So it's those of us who are hanging on, I think we'll do fine. Like I say, we got to hang on another 9 months, and I think we'll be fine. I think business will switch.
I'm actually pretty hopeful about this because part of that conversation about Candy's Jeep. She runs a CJ7. My wheeling rig is a 74 CJ5. We have the same fuel injection system. An early Howell. I have a very early, almost 30-year-old Howell fuel injection system on my 304 V8 in my CJ5. They have a brand new Howell system, and they were the victim of this sort of post-COVID bad component situation. And Candy's wife, Kevin, who's a longtime mechanic and engineer, actually spoke with engineering at Howell and alerted them to the fact that they're getting some bad components in their fuel injection system. And that literally, they jumped on this from one customer, alerting them to this. Now, of course, they probably had warranty problems with this thing because it wasn't working properly. He alerted them, and now they've completely redone. They're in the process of redoing the entire system using better componentry. So I'm really hopeful. And
so that's a positive thing.
That's huge positive. And with my system, I had a couple problems with it, and I was like, it's 30 years old. It's time for a new one. I called Howell. It was probably a year and a half ago, and said, I think I want to order a new one. I'm having these problems. They're like, that system's good forever. You're good. It'll outlive you. And that's how much pride they have in the company. And these guys, I feel that there's going to be a renewed sense of pride, regardless of the tariffs, but just the made in America thing and making better quality products. Now that COVID's behind us, I'm hopeful that we're going to see a whole new kind of renaissance of good quality American-made products. And if that happens, it's good for all. It's good for us all. But I agree with Jerry. It's going to take time.
Yeah. And if I can add one thing to American businesses or new businesses, answer the phone.
Answer the phone.
Right. Answer the phone. And that funny thing that you have on the website that says contact us.
Yeah, it's got to work.
Answer that.
Answer it.
I mean, I answer the phone. I answer those contact forms 11 o'clock at night. I'm busy.
Yep.
And you know what? About 10 minutes later, I see an order come through. It's like, you make money if you answer the phone and answer those emails.
It seems simple.
It seems simple,
but yeah.
Leaving money on the table if you don't answer that stuff. So that's my advice to the world.
Totally.
Answer the phone.
I've been drafting legal documents from the bus for about 3 hours today. I sat in the bus and drafted legal documents and answered phone calls. And that's what you have to do in today's world. But I agree with Jerry. That's the name. It's the reason why I can practice Vermont law from Albuquerque and do these events and do everything else. It's just good business sense and customer service. It's the name of the game. And I think if we see more of that going forward, regardless of what happens with the economy, it's going to be totally positive.
Yeah.
So it looks like if everything works out, we got a good future. If everything that you guys say is accurate, there'll also be more jobs in America. So we'll also have an economy to go buy these things. So maybe overlanding survives.
It's one of the reasons why here, this is going to be an interesting year for Overland Expo. And we're going to get the temperature kind of from this event here in Flagstaff, because we talked about on a couple podcasts ago, merger with, ex-Overland, purchasing, the Expedition Portal and Overland Journal. And we've seen over the last year, Jerry was just mentioning it, a bunch of overland companies that went out of business. Some of what's the big one? The big truck company. Any case, but you've seen a lot of mergers. Dometic's a great example of this. They bought everybody.
Yes,
right?
They've been hungry.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot. And so what I'm curious to see is there a reset right now? Is this going to be? And you're going to get that tone, which is going to start tonight in another hour or so at happy hour. You get the people mingling and you get a vibe. Like, one of the reasons I love to come to these events is you get sort of a general feeling on what's going on, what's the pulse of what we do, and we're going to see that. I think that usually happens now in the spring, and we'll see that sets the tone for the rest of the year.
On my way walking back here, it took me an hour to get all the way back here because people kept stopping me about our podcast referencing the merger between ex-Overland and Expedition Portal. That seems to be a very hot topic that's not about to go anyway soon.
Not going to go anywhere. It's the biggest news in this community for sure. I mean, these guys are right around the corner. We'll probably get them on and talk to them over the weekend at some point. But because that makes people nervous, right? Big change makes people nervous.
So it makes me wonder, I don't think that's going to be one of the last mergers we see anytime soon. I'm just hoping to see more of the companies that have been here for a while, that I know their names, I know the people, that those guys get together. I want to see all the old school guys and the OGs survive. That's basically what I want to say.
Right there with you.
And we went I remember the days back in Mormon Lake or whatever. We go way back in this overland world, I guess, and the vendors.
Times.
I can remember, we joked about that. Like I had a Skottle cooking on that thing. I didn't even know Jerry, way back, like one of the early ones.
Yeah,
Still won't give it up, but.
I mean, I was there at the very beginning of these Overland Expos doing Vermont Overland Rally. It was called Vermont Overland Rally and Workshop for Overland Journal and Scott Brady.
Yep.
And it was like one of the Expo came out first, and then they said we got to get on the bandwagon with these expos, and they somehow got in touch with me in Vermont, and I promoted that. And I remember having it be it was very grassroots, and I have not. Since moving out west, I've not promoted any events or been to any overlanding events at all. And then to come to this thing, I am like, this is absolutely amazing. I mean, this is one of the biggest gatherings of overlanding people I've ever even heard about. And now to see it in person, man, I'm like, this industry is not hurting at all. It is. I think it's still growing by leaps and bounds. And a lot of people talk about overlanding. Has it played? I mean, we'll get into this, but one of the main things that we're doing, getting back to our roots with vintage vehicles, which I would love to kind of explain what the whole purpose of this thing is, and its educational thing, is that so many people are so hooked on the gear, and they're like, I've got to get the gear before I can even get out the door, and we're proving otherwise. Not that these vehicles are cheap, mind you, but I'm just saying that you can get a really old vehicle and keep it running and go overlanding, and that is something sort of antithetical to the overlanding world that I came up with since Vermont Overland Workshop and Rally, and because it's always been about compounding more equipment, more gear, getting more and more stuff, and first of all, we're limited on space and we're limited on technology, and we're going to go out and do it anyway. And I think that that's part of it. But I also see that, I mean, one of the things I'm realizing is I need a fridge. I need an electric fridge. I can't get by with my Coleman cooler on this trip, and I'm going to be suffering. So there is still, even with old stuff, there is still the need for this technology and the products. And I think it's always going to. I think it can be a symbiotic relationship.
Because the number one thing is bring what you got.
Bring what you got.
I tell people that all the time. You bring what you got, and you don't know what you need until you actually get out and do it.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody has different needs and different styles of what they're into, or what kind of terrain they're going on, or how long they're going out for, or So I get asked just constantly, what's the best vehicle? What's the best refrigerator? What's the best? Well, you can't answer that question. You got to get out and do it.
But I think people forget, overlanding, they get hooked on that word. It's really camping.
It's camping.
However, it's a little bit more comfortable camping than what I remember as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
The fridge is a game changer for a lot of people. Having ice and soggy sandwiches.
Gets old.
The fridge is nice. Having cabinetry or a few little doodads that keep it comfortable.
Organization.
Keep you organized. Yeah. But you can start off with a duffel bag, and a Coleman stove. It doesn't matter. Of course, I'd much rather you use a Tembo-Tuff Skottle.
A Skottle.
But trust me.
We were wondering when that was going to get
live on the Tembo-Tuff Skottle. There you go.
The point is that you can get started with anything, and then you move up. You decide, you know what? I want something that's a little easier. Something that's whatever the case may be.
And there's such elegance in simplicity with these older vehicles too. I think,
Well, you guys mentioned that word overlanding, and I hear various definitions, and it's interesting because we just talked about that biggest merger, and Overland Journal and Overland have a very specific definition of overlanding, which is not exactly camping. So they've defined it as overlanding being vehicle-based, vehicle-dependent travel on I don't want to say a grander scale, but like it's where the journey is obviously the adventure, it's not the destination, right? So that may be a little bit, I don't know what you guys' feeling is on that, but that may be a little bit different than camping. Like we would go out, we used to go camping, go out in the woods, park it, and
Well, if you want to me, the true definition, it's Africa or Australia.
Well, that's what their definition is. Very international based.
Well, it is, because you depend on your vehicle and your gear, and you're nowhere. No one can help you. Here in the United States, we're not further than 50 miles to any supermarket. But that's okay. You know what? It doesn't mean we can't enjoy this.
Right.
You're going through Arizona, you are in the middle of nowhere. I've driven the back roads of Nevada. You are nowhere near anything.
Oh, yeah. Utah, parts of Utah, Montana.
It's not quite as isolated as, let's say, Africa or Australia. You get stranded in Australia, you're, that's a continent.
SOL.
The size of the United States, and with the population of Los Angeles.
Right.
So, you need to be prepared. Here, I think it's a little looser.
See, and that's the challenge with an event like this, is that you've got a combination of overlanders, campers, van lifers, and then you could argue even you got a mix of various different things in there. So not to get deep into the definition-based thing, but that's part of the. I forgot. Obviously, the big one is wheelers, right? So that's definitely different. There's a whole different mindset.
I think it is. Wheelers are one day. They go in, they do their wheeling, they go home. Whereas overlanding or camping, you're actually going to a destination. You're going out. You're using your gear. You're more dependent on your gear and your vehicle.
Which to me the definition, and I'll turn it over to you guys, but my definition difference is that, and it started I think when I first started traveling extensively in Africa, was I decided that you would always take the path of least resistance. You never sacrifice or put your vehicle in any risk whatsoever, which is the complete and total opposite of wheeling.
Yes.
Wheeling, you go out with the absolute destination of trying to break your truck on a trail somewhere.
Yeah.
Really, right?
Pretty close.
I'm pretty dialed in with the wheeling scene, with the straight up wheeling scene out here, because I've fallen in with the vintage Jeep group, like the Quasi 8s, with all the flat fender guys, Grandpa's Jeep, Jeff Petrovich. And believe me, it is challenged. After wheeling for 30 years, it's nothing compared to what I do with those guys. But I will tell you that even in that group, like last year we did the Lockhart Basin trip, camping, and we were over, and I got to tell you, they use, even those guys who are not overlanders by any stretch of the imagination, use the term overlanding. They're like, we're doing an overlanding, or some say camping, but they say we're doing an overlanding trip on this part of, that was at Easter Jeep Safari. It's on Gone Jeepin' on the YouTube page, and it was a wonderful trip. Chris Collard did all the videoing for it and drone work, and it was awesome. But I noticed, and I was very surprised to see that these guys were dyed-in-the-wool Jeepers. They were using the word overlanding, and I thought that was a major breakthrough in the overlanding movement, because you even have these guys who wouldn't even know about that term and would say camping usually, but they're using the term overlanding, and they were just as much into the camping setup. You have Dave Delight, who's a bona fide cowboy, basically using a bedroll like a cowboy would, who's from Ogden, Utah, right down to my ridiculous, I have a suspended cot suspended from my roll cage inside the CJ5, which took me a long time to get set up. But it's the same type of thing as you see in a purely overlanding crowd like this. Really cool.
And you'll see even here at Expo, I bet you a third of what's being sold out here is directed at more what I would call the van life community, right? There's just infinite amounts of van builds here and equipment that is more based on that scenario. Because in reality, those guys, particularly the van community, a lot of them are traveling more overlanding style, because they may not have the aggressive rock crawling setups that you're going to find in the wheeling community, right?
I would refer to them as more of the nomads.
Nomads, nomads.
They're more nomadic.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. See, to me, when I hear overlanding, I think more nomadic too. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
That's the van lifers, though. To me, that's what I think of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody wants to know what I think. I think overlanding is pretty much the definition that they gave in the beginning. A lot of people travel. Earlier in my life, I did a lot of traveling, went a lot of places, but I didn't do it in a vehicle, so that's one thing. I feel like you have to cross borders. and you have to go on a trip where you're not coming back to an hotel, you're coming back to your vehicle. I believe that overlanding has been changed as a business move. I mean, if I'm selling racks and I'm selling them to hunters and I'm selling them to regular travelers and everything, this overlanding name gets me the whole shebang.
Yep.
So
It's a catch-all.
yeah, and there's an eagerness by the people who are purchasing. They want that name. They want to be called an overlander. It's a cachet thing.
Oh, sure.
So I believe that the definition still remains the same, but I'm open to the abomination that it's become.
Right.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of crossover. I remember quite a few years ago, I went to a kayak trade show, and they were just getting the idea of overlanding, because it turns out that they camp as well, the kayakers, because they have to get to the headwaters. They put their boats in, but they're camping. So a lot of the gear that overlanders have can cross over to them. Same thing with the hunters and the fishermen.
Peter can speak to it. The cycling community
Huge.
has gravitated towards that with the camping, with the vans, and
Yeah, I
everything
mean,
else.
I had my company Vermont Overland, which many of you guys are familiar with, and I had 2 events per year. I had a gravel bicycle race, and then I had a overlanding event, which eventually became the Vermont Overland bird watching safari. And the reason why I named it that, many of you might be wondering, is because people, when I had
watched a
Vermont
lot of
Overland
birds.
rally, everybody thought we were racing. Oh, they're doing a rally. They're racing. The minute we mentioned bird watching, whenever anybody asked what we were doing, ended the conversation pretty fast. They were like, yeah, okay, whatever. But basically, the point of the story is that what I found of 5-6 years of running both of those events, it's the same people.
Yeah.
Like Mike. Mike would come to the bike race, do the bike race, and he'd be the same rig. He'd set up in the same spot at our venue for the overlanding event. And that was amazing to me to see that crossover. And in fact, it really helped getting sponsors for the company, because I could tap into sponsors either way. Cannondale was wanting to get into the overlanding scene as a bike company, and then you'd have overlanding companies who wanted to appeal to the bikers. So it definitely is another symbiotic relationship.
So Pete, I allowed you to mention Vermont Overland twice. I'm not going to let this go. I have a total issue with you, and I'm going to take this official moment to bear my emotions.
I knew it was coming.
People know that I travel all over North America, go to all of these different expos and everything. So I've got my finger on the button. And so people will come to me and they'd ask me about where to go. What are the best events in the whole United States to go? And I would only give 2 places. One was on the East Coast and one was on the West Coast. And the one, it was yours. And then you sold it.
No.
So I have
Now
it.
poor Phil can't go to Vermont anymore.
No, it's
What's my favorite city? I mean, what's my favorite state?
Vermont.
So I don't like you, Peter.
No, I'm telling you, like and I will address that, because that's the elephant in the room. Is like, why aren't you? I mean, Vermont. It started out as a guide service in what I did with my friend Jamil Abbasi, and we were guiding people in Vermont going off road, and then we decided, well, this is even. And actually, Jamil backed out of it at the time. He's a very busy dentist, professional, and I was still practicing law too. But I said, wow. There seems to be a real need for, once I was starting to do Vermont Overland Rally and Workshop, and then Scott Brady decided he really didn't want to be involved with the event business. I just took it on myself, and I was like, this could really work. But what happened was, with COVID, to be very honest with you guys, I had an incredibly difficult time with COVID, and this channel, this podcast is no stranger to controversial issues. Well, you are talking to a card-carrying conspiracy theorist, and I literally
Oh, God. Here we go.
at the beginning of COVID, I'm one of those guys who said, this is wrong. These lockdowns are wrong. And I held out and held out and held out on my events. I had people accusing me of killing grandma. I was saying, this is the world. I had dear friends of mine calling me that you're going to kill people. You can't do this. You can't keep this going. We eventually had to postpone the bicycle race. But by that point, I'm already living in Albuquerque because we moved here because my wife, in all of this hubbub with COVID, right during the lockdowns actually, she was offered her dream job to run a beautiful boutique hotel in Albuquerque called Los Poblanos Historic Inn and Organic Farm, right smack dab in the middle of, it actually started before the lockdowns, and then they said, no, we still want you to come out here. I had to work remotely anyway with my law practice, so we took a chance and moved to Albuquerque, and we never looked back. But basically, with the events, even in 2020, I will take credit. I was the only overlanding, I was the only event. I was the only event in the entire
Eric and I
country.
did it.
And Mike went because there was a brief window in Vermont from, I think it was August 1st through November 30th. November
Yeah,
1st.
they kept they kept changing the rule.
They kept changing the rules,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for a while we could have groups of 25 or
Yeah.
less, spread apart, wearing masks, whatever. If you, and that was optional. You had to sign a sheet of paper saying you weren't sick,
Right.
and you could get together. So we did Vermont Overland birdwatching safari even in 2020. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I didn't make any friends because I kept the basic proceeds from that event because I felt like I delivered the best product I could that year. And then we used that money to be able to settle up and be able to transfer Vermont Overland to just the bicycle race, which Ansel Dickey now runs in Vermont, does a great job. He's a kid I coached for years. But the big question is, why don't I just keep doing this out here? It's a really good question. And the main reason is that with COVID, I kind of just, I got to the point, actually, I made a bet during COVID that because I had people telling me they're never going to do a group event again. And I made a bet. I said, I think what we're going to be looking at in the future for recreation like this is smaller groups, like we're doing, like the Southern Cross Expedition, small groups of people who know each other and trust each other, getting together to recreate. I'm already seeing that in the biking world, in the gravel world. Now, don't get me wrong, there are massive gravel events like Unbound Gravel, Mid-South Gravel, doing Steamboat Gravel, doing extremely well. Lifetime Sports owns a lot of them, the same company as the triathlon company. So they're doing really well. But what I'm seeing is a general progression towards these small group recreational gatherings. And I made that bet in 2020. I don't think it's really going to happen really fully. I don't think we're going to start seeing less and less of these massive recreational events and more small group recreation, but I think it's going to happen by 2030. I really do.
Well, you're starting to see it now. Like we talked about it on the podcast with the Overland Ranch doing smaller events.
Smaller events.
Because there's a desire. People, not to sound old school, but like back in the day when these events were smaller, they were more fun.
Yes.
Personal.
The what? More personal.
More personal.
The camaraderie was there more, and that's kind of like what our group here at the table is doing with the Southern Cross thing. We put together kind of a team for this that we all have known each other for a long time. We know we will be able to off-road together, and at the end of the day, we're doing it for fun, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Pretty much everybody here who's old school knows each other.
yes. Yeah,
Totally.
so we're sitting here recording this podcast on setup day, and so we're not open to the public sitting here, but virtually we've how many people have we talked to today? A zillion people that we all know, because these are all people that have been in the community for a long time, right?
Oh yeah. You like Phil said, you can't walk across the venue here and not get stopped 10 or 15 times on the way. So,
Right.
And that's I think people, what Peter was talking about, crave. We come here. I mean, I've said it before. I come to Overland Expo for the people. To talk to people. It's like a reunion every year.
The community connection.
The community connection.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting on recording this smiling, because my truck is in a million pieces and nothing's gone right in my world in the last 24 hours. But hey, we're having a great
We're
time.
having fun.
Yeah. Right?
No, I think that's the name of the game, and that's one of the reasons why. The more commercial you make something, I feel, the less fun it can be. I mean, one of the reasons why Jerry runs a great company, and everybody, I mean, I put out some social media. I do one sharing of Jerry's FJ40. It's like 1 million views of that thing, and people are like, oh my God, it's Jerry,
that's
it's Jerry, it's
Jerry's.
Jerry, it's Jerry, it's Jerry. And it's like, that's not because of commercial business. That's because Jerry answers the phone. That's because Jerry talks to people. That's because he's created personal relationships over 15, 20 years of doing this. And that's really where it counts, and that's what creates the fun. It's not the commercial aspect. It's the small groups and the relationships you make in life that I think really create the fun and make it lasting and make it a memorable experience. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, what did he do? He basically reinvented the cookout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody loves a great cookout, right?
Unwittingly.
Yeah.
Unwittingly.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you describe it the best as because it's circular.
Well, it's
Kitchen Island.
When you're cooking,
It's a center island.
We'll call out Coleman again. You're cooking on a Coleman. Your back is to everyone. The cook's back is to everyone. You pull out the Skottle. It's round. Everyone hangs out. It's like the fire pit, but you get to eat off of it. And people start to fight each other because they want to cook. But it's social. It turns out that the unintended consequence of the Skottle was how social it was.
Right.
And I think that's what made it popular more than anything else, is that people were able to gather around. So.
Hey, we're on a podcast right now, but I want to say hi to you, and you can say hi to everybody out there.
Everybody. Hi, everybody. Your podcast just got 10% better.
This is the world famous Eva.
What's the podcast?
Oh, we're just
We've already
talking.
mentioned you in this podcast, Emma.
Good.
Talking about overlanding and expo, and we're doing our crazy old truck trip, and you guys are getting ready for the Rebel, right?
We're getting ready for the Rebel. Yeah, this is awesome. Hey, everybody. It's nice to see all of you. Best part of Overland Expo is getting to see all your friends that you only see once or twice a year.
That's weird.
right.
Cool. Super cool. Well, then I won't interrupt the podcast.
Your timing was great because that's what we were just talking about.
I love it. Well, thanks, you guys. I won't interrupt,
Very nice.
even though I already did.
But I'll get back to you. So I got to talk to
Leave
you.
these packages for Azure.
And guys, this is exactly what we are talking about. What just happened here right now, the social aspect, is what we're basically crying about. All right, does anybody have anything else they want to say? I'm sure you do, but we're at the end of the time.
But hey, a lot of you guys have seen a lot of these guys, and you're going to see more of us. And be sure to watch our whole video series of this gang out there for the Southern Cross Expedition. We're going to have a great time. I hope it comes through in the video. I think it will. And yeah, that's what I got to say.
It's going to be awesome.
Look these people up. If you're new and you don't know who these people are, you need to know who they are. These are foundational members of the Overland community.
And why don't we go down? Well, how do we get a hold of you guys? Pete?
Instagram is at NewMexicoOver.land. If you just go at New Mexico Overland, you'll find me. But the actual handle is at NewMexicoOver.land.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. Chicks do it too. It's chicks and then number 2.
Alrighty. Jerry with Tembo Tusk. Just Google Tembo Tusk.
If you can't find it, there's something wrong with your computer.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.